Hello class, Mr. Sims presents recorded video lessons. This is page 18 of the linear equations, and we're going to talk today about the equation of a line. And the lesson objective would be to find the slope and the y-intercept of the line given its equation. So I'm going to give you an equation, you're going to be able to find the slope and something called the y-intercept. Slope we've already talked about, it's that rise over run. The y-intercept we're going to introduce here. So first thing we're going to talk about is intercepts of a line. Okay, the graph of any line not parallel to an axis intersects both the x and the y axis. So for example, any line that's not parallel, so here's a line that's parallel to the x-axis, it doesn't touch the x-axis. A line that's parallel to the y-axis will not touch the y-axis. Every other line is going to cross both. And those intersection points are called intercepts. Okay? So, very significant. At the y-intercept, the x-coordinate is equal to 0. So the coordinate 0, 4. Okay? If you're just to look at where that would be on a graph, here just sketch one quick. 0, 4 would be right there. It would be on the y-axis, hence we call that the y-intercept. Okay? At the x-intercept, y is equal to 0. So the point 4, 0. Is over here. That's called the x-intercept. Right? The y-intercept's the one that's more commonly used. Okay? So we're going to skip example 1 because we're not going to talk about how we don't need to worry about finding x and y intercepts given an equation. So we're going to get to what the equation of the line looks like. Okay. So looking at the equation, y is equal to 2x plus 6. When we look at the equation that's in this form, there are two numbers that are going to become very significant. You have the 2, which is the coefficient, the number that's in front of x, and you have a constant term, which in this case is, it's a typo there, it's positive 6. So you have 6. Okay, and there is a significance to those numbers. The coefficient of the x term is the slope of the line. Okay? So in this particular equation, 2 is that slope. It's that rise over run. And remember we talked in class about if it's a whole number or an integer, you put it over 1. So it's 2 over 1. All right? So this means on a graph, you would be going up to the right one. The constant, or the number that's at the end, is the y-intercept. It's where the line crosses the y-axis. All right? So that's going to become more significant when I come back and we're graphing these using this equation. So in the equation, let's just fix it here. Y equals 2x plus 6. The slope, which is represented by the letter m, is 2. The y-intercept is 6. And that's really what we're going to be doing in this lesson, is just finding the slope and the y-intercept. Okay? Which sounds pretty easy to start with. All right. If an equation is written in the form, this form here is definitely going to become very, very popular. It's y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. This is something that you're probably going to use or you're going to hear the rest of the time that you take math in school. All right? Especially in algebra 2, and also in geometry. Y equals mx plus b is referred to as the slope intercept form of the equation. Because when an equation is written in this form, you can easily find the slope and the y-intercept just by looking at the numbers. All right. So in our first kind of little warm-up here, finding the slope and the y-intercept. Actually, what I would have you do is just pause the video at this point. Try to see if you can figure it out. Unpause, and I'll go over it. So hit pause now. All right. So in this particular equation, the slope is -3. The y-intercept is 6. That's really all there is to it. Okay. In b, the slope is 1/2. The y-intercept is -8. And yes, you do have to include the sign. It is negative. Okay. And then here, the slope is -2 over 3. The y-intercept is -6. All sounds easy, right? Well, now I can step it up a little bit. All of these equations, we're going to talk about this y equals form, when y is by itself. Here, here, here. Okay, well, what happens when y is not by itself? We're going to find the slope of the line in the equation 4x plus 2y is equal to 10. So what we're going to do is we have to put the equation into the form y equals mx plus b by solving for y. And I don't know if Mr. Durden showed you how to do this or not. So essentially what happens is I'm going to write the equation down, and I'm going to show you a couple of these just so in case you have a tough time following. We're going to literally solve for y. It means we want to get y alone. Well, in order to get y alone, I need to get rid of everything that's on that side with it. So if I go back to solving equations, undoing things. Well, the 4x needs to be on the other side. So I'm going to move it, but I can't just move it. I'm going to subtract it. All right. So on the left side, we're still left with 2y. All right, now, these are not like terms, which means that I cannot put them together. I can't go 10 minus 4 and get 6x. So I'm just going to write this out, but I'm going to write the x term first. Okay, because in the mx plus b form, the x term comes first. Now you could do it the other way around. You could put 10 minus 4x. All right, now, to get y alone, I need to divide by 2. Well, when you divide 2 over here, you have to divide everything over here by 2. Okay? Each term has to get divided by 2. It's kind of like distributing, but you're using division instead. Okay? So I'm left with the equation y equals negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2x. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So in this equation, my slope is now negative 2. My y-intercept is 5. All right. Let me go ahead and just show you another one. I'm going to show you this one right here in the middle. And then I'll give you some time to go ahead and practice this a little bit. This one's pretty easy. The reason I'm picking this one is because of all the negatives that are in this problem. Negatives always introduce new problems because most mistakes in algebra are made with a negative sign. Solving for y. Okay? And a lot of these look the same. So I'm going to, and it's very repetitive. So once you figure out what you're doing, you're just repeating the process. So I'm going to move the 3x to the other side, but I can't just move it. I have to take it off. But on the left side, that negative sign's still there. That minus goes with the 2, which means the 2 is negative. All right, here I can't put these together, so once again, I'm just going to, put the x term first, and then I'll put the constant term. Okay, the reason that's called a constant is because this doesn't change. It's always negative 8. This can change depending on what I put in for x. All right, last step is going to be divide by. Now I got to divide by negative 2. Divide everything by negative 2. We get y equals. Now, in this case, a negative divided by negative is a positive. All right, and 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. But as I said, because this is going to be our slope is always going to be represented as a fraction. So you're going to leave it as a fraction 3 over 2. Okay, we also don't need to make it a mixed number either. And then here we got negative 8 divided by negative 2, positive 4. Right? So what I'm going to have you do is, hopefully that's enough, I'm going to have you hit pause and try these two, and then you can unpause to see the solutions. And then from here, you work on the problems on the next page, which if I've got them done, the answer key is included in the Schoology folder. All right, so go ahead and hit pause now. All right, and we're back, and I'm just going to very quickly get the work shown for these problems here. So this one on the left, we're looking at taking the 2x off of both sides, divide through by 2. We get y equals, oh, I never finished this one, by the way. The slope is 3 over 2. The y-intercept is 4. All right, and back over here, we get negative 1x plus 5. So the slope is negative 1. The y-intercept is 5. That's that one. The one on the right, subtract 4x from both sides. I get 5y equals negative 4x minus 25. Divide through by 5. This one I can't divide, but it is negative. You have a negative divided by positive, so it's negative 4/5 x. And then negative 25 divided by 5 is minus 5. So the slope of this one is negative 4 over 5, and the y-intercept is negative 5. Okay. The glorious thing about having a video lesson is if I go too fast, you can pause, you can rewind it, you can even rewatch this if you need be. All right, so for recorded lessons, this is Mr. Sims signing off.